Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakaha Gwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Raya with another video, and in this video, I'll be profiling an article from RT.com titled, U.S. Vows to Strengthen Nuclear Arsenal. A top general warned of the need to boost deterrence following dozens of missile tests by North Korea. And at the end of the day, the U.S. strengthening its nuclear arsenal is all futile because it's biblical prophecy for not only the United States of America to be destroyed by nuclear missiles during World War III, but also that a lot of its missiles and anti-defense missile systems are going to fail in that day to allow it to be hit by nuclear missiles, not just from nations like North Korea, but mainly Russia, China, and even the allies of the United States of America, like Britain, France, Germany, and these other NATO nations that are going to turn against her at some point during World War III. And altogether, the U.S. is going to get hit by 200 million nuclear missiles, which is going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. And when we see articles like this and just constantly hear about World War III and nuclear weapons in the news, it just lets us know how close we are to these biblical prophecies coming to their fulfillment. Because contrary to popular belief, we're living in the last days, really the last seconds of the last days before the end of this current age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly by the biblical Edomites or these so-called white people, before the second coming of Yahushai, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, who's going to usher in the new age, bring in the kingdom of heaven under the children of Israel, known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. But let's get into this article. The U.S. government will work to improve its nuclear forces, a senior military commander has said, pledging to bolster America's arsenal on land, in the air, and at sea in response to rogue actions by North Korea. Speaking before the Senate Armed Services Committee on Thursday, Air Force General Anthony Cotton spoke of the need to strengthen the nation's nuclear arsenal to meet challenges from the likes of Pyongyang and other rival states. North Korea conducted an unprecedented number of missile launches in 2022, and its new intercontinental ballistic missile, referred to as KN-28, highlight that the security challenge continues to grow, he said, to ensure our continued ability to serve as the bedrock of integrated deterrence. We are recapitalizing every leg of the nuclear triad and the nuclear command, control, and communications systems. The triad refers to the three primary methods of delivery for U.S. nuclear weapons, including land-based missile silos, long-range strategic bomber aircraft, and nuclear-armed submarines. Cotton went on to accuse North Korea of acting as a rogue nation which poses a threat to the United States and our allies, stressing that Washington must continue to improve its effective and credible nuclear deterrent. That's it with this article. I got to the main point. But like I said at the beginning of the video, it doesn't matter that the U.S. is trying to bolster its nuclear deterrence and offensive capabilities. It's all a part of biblical prophecy for the United States of America to be destroyed by nuclear weapons, and also for a lot of its nuclear weapons and anti-missile defense systems to fail in that day to allow it to be destroyed. But let's get into these prophecies. This is Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, referring to World War I. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter, World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is quickly coming upon us and will go nuclear. And the two main combatants of World War III is going to be the United States of America, which in the scriptures is known as Babylon the Great, and Russia, which in the scriptures has a few names. It's Gog in Ezekiel chapter 38, and the North Country in Jeremiah chapter 50. And Russia is going to be the main nation that's going to lead all these other nations, not just its own allies, but also America's allies that are going to turn against her to shoot those nukes onto the U.S. This is Psalms chapter 58. I'm going to start at verse 3 and jump around a bit. The wicked are estranged from the womb, and the wicked, according to the scriptures, the wicked whom the earth has been given into the hands of in Job chapter 9, verse 24, and the border of wickedness in Malachi 1, verse 4, are the biblical Edomites, again known as these so-called white people today. Your Americans, the British, Europeans, the Russians, the South Afrikaners, the small hats over in the Holy Land, they're Amalekite Edomites, etc., etc. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Now I'm going to jump down to verse 6. I started off with verse 3 just to show that these verses are talking about the wicked, the Edomites. Break their teeth, O power, in their mouth. Break out the great teeth of the young lions, O Yahweh. And what are the main weapons of a lion? Its teeth. So what this is talking about is the weapons of these Edomites, which the Edomites, beginning with their forefather Esau, was blessed with the sword to take the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven with. And how have they gained control of this planet? Through their military might. So what this is saying is that their teeth are their weapons, are going to be broken. And like I've been saying throughout the video, during World War III, when these nukes get shot, America is going to shoot off a lot of its missiles. But at the same time, a lot of its missiles are going to malfunction, and a lot of its anti-missile defense systems are going to fail in that day, their teeth being broken. So what? Prophecy can be fulfilled, and they can be destroyed by those 200 million nuclear missiles. Verse 7, let them melt away as waters which run continually. Them melting away, getting melted by those nuclear missiles. Them turning the U.S. into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. When he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows, these are talking about the nuclear missiles. And what you have to remember is that when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they didn't know what a modern day nuclear missile was. They weren't going to say a Patriot missile defense system, a nuclear triad, a hypersonic missile, a Zircon, or a Satan II, or anything like that. They described it the best way they could, what they knew during their times, ancient weapons of war. And when you see a missile fly through the sky, what does it look like? An arrow. And those bows are symbolic for the silos and other launch platforms that these missiles are going to be fired from. So again, when he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows, when the U.S. goes to shoot its nuclear missiles, let them be as cut in pieces. Break their teeth. Break out the great teeth of the young lions, O Yahweh. Again, the U.S. is going to get off a lot of its nuclear missiles during World War III, But at the same time, there's going to be a malfunction to where when they go to shoot their arrows, they won't be able to shoot particular ones. And also with these incoming missiles, their anti-missile defense systems are going to fail to allow those missiles to hit this place. And it's all going to be through the spirit of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Hey, you're going to have the chariots, the so-called UFOs, controlling these things. And I've done a few videos in the past showing that over U.S. nuclear weapon sites, as well as Russian nuclear weapon sites, there were UFO spottings. And when they showed up, those military personnel lost control of the system. The chariots were able to turn on the countdowns and turn off the use of the missiles. So when the big game comes during World War III, they're going to do the same thing. Now I'm going to go to Joel chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 1. But the points I want to get to is down in verses 7 and 8. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand. And when we see articles like the one we read on RT.com and just constantly hear about World War III and nuclear war in the news, we know that the day of Yahweh is very near at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. Speaking of those nuclear missiles, there hath not been ever the like, referring to how these nuclear weapons came about very recently, beginning with those 2 atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima during that second woe, World War II. Neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. When these heathen nations go to shoot their nuclear missiles, every single one of them is going to be fired. And after the dust settles, that's when Yahushai and the 144,000 are going to begin enslaving the remaining heathens, beginning with their elites. And they're not going to allow you heathens to build weapons of war anymore. A fire devoureth before them, speaking of that warhead at the front of the missile, the destructive part. And behind them a flame burneth, that rocket booster on the back of the missile. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them. The land looks normal. You've got cities, forests, people, animals, and life going on as usual. And behind them, a desolate wilderness. Yeah, and nothing shall escape them. When those nuclear missiles hit their targets, the land is turned into a wasteland, like these post-apocalyptic movies, Mad Max, or video games like Fallout. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble. Nuclear fire, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their face, the people shall be much pained. A people in a panic and an uproar when they hear those sirens going off and see those missiles flying through the sky, knowing that there's no escape. All faces shall gather blackness, or ash, or soot. These people getting burned up by these nuclear missiles. Now here's the points I wanted to get to. Verse 7, they shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. They shall march everyone on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Every missile that is fired is going to reach its targets without any problems, because the spirit of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is going to be on them. Like I just said, you're going to have the chariots out here controlling these missiles, these anti-missile defense systems. Verse 7, neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk everyone in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. And that sword is speaking of those anti-missile defense systems. And like I've been saying, the U.S. is going to get off some of its missiles onto these other nations. But at the end of the day, a lot of them are gonna fail when he goes to bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows. What? His teeth are gonna be broken. The chariots are gonna take control of those sequences and cause particular missiles not to fire. And then at the same time, with those incoming enemy missiles, they're gonna control those anti-missile defense systems that soared to fail. So when those missiles hit their targets, they shall not be wounded, but they're going to detonate and turn America, that whore, into the lake of fire. But now let's get into these precepts dealing with the actual destruction of the United States. This is Jeremiah 50 verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, Babylon the Great, that virgin daughter of Babylon, mystery Babylon in Revelation chapter 17, that whore, the United States of America. And when you read Psalms 137 verses 7 to 9, you'll see that the Edomites are synonymous with the daughter of Babylon, an assembly of great nations from the north country, Russia, because what's north of the U.S., Canada, that Arctic Ocean region, and then Russia. And I've also done plenty of videos showing that Russia's been building up its military assets in that Arctic Ocean region, nuclear capable. And it's a well-known fact that Russia shooting missiles from itself across the north, as well as from its assets from that Arctic Ocean region to hit its targets in the U.S., would be the shortest trajectory time for those missiles to reach the U.S. And that assembly of great nations are not only Russia's allies, like China, North Korea, or Iran, but also the allies of the U.S., Britain, France, Germany, these other NATO nations that at some point during that third woe, World War III, are going to turn against her and ally themselves with that North country, Russia, to shoot those 200 million nuclear missiles onto her. Read Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, the 10 horns referring to the EU or European Union, beginning with the first 10 common markets of the EU back when it was known as the European Economic Community, and the beast is NATO. These shall hate the whore that rides upon the beast, the United States, that daughter of Babylon, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, nuclear fire. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows, those nuclear missiles, shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. Again, they shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. They shall march everyone on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his paths. And none of these missiles shall return in vain. Every missile that has a target to hit is going to hit its intended target. And the main target is Babylon, the United States of America. Now I'm going to close it out in Isaiah chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. And this isn't talking about the ancient Medes who were Japhites. This is talking about the modern day spiritual Medes, the Russians who are also Edomites. And what's interesting about this is when you read up on the downfall of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, it was a surgical strike brought about by Darius the Mede under the orders of Cyrus the Great. And like I said, the modern day Medes are these Russians, and the Russians inhabit the lands where Japhites used to dwell at. So everything all lines up in the spirit when you've got that spiritual eye. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. When the time comes for these Russian Edomites to put in those keys and turn them to shoot those nukes, nothing is going to stop them from shooting those nuclear missiles. No gold or silver, FRNs or Federal Reserve notes, peace treaties, weapons bans, nuclear proliferation talks, anything like that. This is all through the will of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai to fulfill biblical prophecy, as it says in Isaiah 55 verse 11, "So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children." If you are not of the elect of the nation of Israel in the United States of America, when these nukes hit this place, you're just going to be fuel for the fire. That includes not only these heathens, but also the wicked of our people. 2/3 of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are hard-headed and refuse to return back to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And these missiles, hey, they don't discriminate. Hey, they're going to burn up men, women, children, babies, young and old, etc., etc. And Babylon, the United States of America, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And besides being known as Babylon the Great, that daughter of Babylon in the scriptures, the United States, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8, is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt. And it's very easy to see why the U.S. is known as spiritual Sodom. This is the #1 nation that heavily promotes that alphabet lifestyle onto the rest of the planet. And how was ancient Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed? With fire and brimstone from the sky. And if you go to Sodom and Gomorrah today, you can find little sulfur balls that are easily light on fire. That's just how pure that sulfur was, that fire and brimstone. So this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah is going to get hit with modern fire and brimstone. Those 200 million nuclear missiles. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. When these nuclear missiles hit this place, and after the dust settles, man, woman, or child will never set foot here ever again. It's going to be a desolate wasteland that after a time, only desert creatures are going to dwell at, as it's about to say. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. And we can clearly see that Babylon's time is near to come, and her days are no longer being prolonged. We're seeing articles talking about World War III and nuclear destruction, and what else? You've had this recent situation with Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, Wells Fargo, and other banks, showing that the financial system is beginning to collapse. You've got all these different food processing plants mysteriously getting destroyed, which is going to lead to what? Food shortages and famines. And you've got civil unrest brewing in the country. The list goes on and on. America is breaking at every level, and the final nail in the coffin is going to be those nuclear missiles. And when everything's said and done, the former United States of America is going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel, again known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, primarily from Babylon the Great, the United States of America. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.